We got a battle brewing across Washington and Wall Street when it comes to immigration, particularly.
So, before making this video, I had to tell myself not to be a giant vag before making it. And, you know, the reason why is just going to piss a bunch of people off. Everybody looks through things from a political lens these days, and I just want to look at it through the economy. Just to give you a little bit of background, I am an investment advisor. I've had thousands upon thousands of hours, not only in the field, but in education. I have a degree in personal finance. So I was looking at this and, you know, I just remember my economics professor talking about, you know, the immigration is one of the 10 top things that grow our economy. And, you know, I think that both sides have this thing wrong, so I just want to talk about it a little bit. And also, too, if I don't talk about these things, you know, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I also have an OCD of finance, and not all my clients want to hear that.
Particularly on immigration's impact on Silicon Valley and jobs. Megan Casella joining us now with that story. Megan.
Hey, Ryan, good morning. So this is a showdown between the big tech wing of Trump's Republican Party, led by Elon Musk, and the far-right MAGA wing of the party. And the debate is over H-1B visas, those ones that are reserved for highly skilled foreign workers in fields like math and engineering. And this all started...
So it's not just math and engineering. There's a bunch of different fields. So, for example, the medical field is one of them. You know, let's just take a look at this, right? If you have... let's say would you want the best out of 10,000 to work on your heart, right? So you would kind of agree that 1 out of 10,000 people is an extraordinary person, right? If we were to, you know, have immigration that high percentage, that 1 out of 10,000 from India, for example, that's 150,000 people, right? So we're getting into this era of especially computers, where we're going to be, you know, our AI capabilities are going to have to compete with China, and we definitely want to get the best of the best.
Started with a far-right activist, Laura Loomer, criticizing a Trump appointee's stance on expanding skilled immigration. She called it alarming that career leftists, as she called them, were joining the administration with views in opposition to Trump's America First agenda. And that then started a fight with Musk, with the...
In my opinion, Laura's kind of an idiot. I understand she's kind of, you know, she's catering to her base, but you have to understand what's best for us all, right? I remember this like 20 years ago in my economics class. My professor was talking about the value of this, and we used to be like a powerhouse, right? We used to import the best of the best, and if you really think about it, you know, if you were doing, let's say, a relay race, and you would want the best runners on there. If you don't have the best runners, you're not going to lose a race, and we want to win the race. But even back then, he was talking about how our system was broken, right? And our system is broken in the sense that we educate here, we pay for, you and I, taxpayers, we pay for to educate these people, and then we send them back where they came from, right? So we want the people that we actually invest in to stay here. And that might not be all, you know, we don't want underwater basket weavers in here, but we definitely want people from the STEM fields.
Ramaswamy, with David Sachs, who's the incoming AI czar, all of them saying that the U.S. needs these H-1B visas and H-1B workers in order to stay competitive. They also believe that Trump is on their side in this. He said this summer that anyone who graduates from college in the U.S. should automatically get a green card to stay. Now, guys, these visas aren't a huge part of overall immigration. They're capped at $85,000 per year, but they are used primarily by tech companies. Amazon applied for more H-1B visas in 2024 than any.
And that's another thing I think this story doesn't talk about, and they might, but once you're tied to these companies, you're tied for a period of time, right? Which means your labor is going to be cheaper, which means it has a trickle-down effect to the consumer, right? So you definitely want, it's beneficial for Americans, right? Whether the companies keep those in their coffers instead of giving it to consumers is one thing, but it definitely brings prices down, and it helps with inflation.
Any other company. Other big names are among the top users as well. Tesla applied for 742 of these this year. You can see a couple other theirs as well. So it's a small but influential sliver of the workforce. But it's also, guys, the first time that we're seeing real division within the party on this. It's sort of Musk versus MAGA. And the question now is whether this might preview more policy fights to come between these two camps. Guys?
I don't know. I don't know how influential she is on that part of the party or that wing of the party. So is this suggesting that the immigration policies, which we expect to start day one, as promised, right, might be more nuanced?
They could be. It's going to depend on what could happen. Trump has sort of fashioned himself in the past, as those comments this summer showed, of wanting to sort of expand this skilled immigration process, of fixing the legal immigration process in addition to stopping illegal immigration. So I do think there's a way that he can try to.
And here's another thing, right? So there's an equation for GDP growth per capita, GDP being our gross domestic product. It basically quantifies the goods and services we put out on an annual basis, right? And there's two different ways to quantify this. There's GDP with labor and GDP without. GDP with labor is you have I think growth right around about 70 basis points more. So it kind of goes to say that you want people joining our labor force versus just people just coming across the border. And there's another thing that I don't think they're talking about much, but it's an issue. So say that we deport about like 10 million of the legal immigrants that came across, right? The issue with that is that the labor markets they could potentially tighten up, right? The labor markets tighten up, you have wage increase. If you have wage increases, some people might say, hey, that's great, my wages are going to increase, but that gets baked into the cost of our goods and services, right? If you have inflation, it's an inflationary thing. If you have inflation go up, then the feds are going to raise rates. They're going to the 10-year has the potential then to go up, and then Joe Schmo can't buy a house or has to buy a smaller house because he can't afford it. So it's interesting to see how all of these systems kind of work together, and this is like a real serious issue, and you have to kind of look at the opportunity costs really of it all, and it really all can be quantified, right? You want immigration, but you don't want people who come in here illegally, can't work, and then you're giving them government handouts, and we're paying for it. The taxpayers paying for it. You have an obligation. Your own country has this obligation to its citizens first, and expanding the visa program for the right reasons benefits all citizens, right? Whether you like immigration, dislike immigration, whatever, it does, right?
Appease everybody here by saying we're still going to continue with the mass deportations, even as we look at maybe expanding green cards and skilled visas. So that's sort of where there might be something to watch here. I wouldn't say that Laura Loomer on her own is really impactful or would make a big difference, but I do think her comment sort of ignited this debate. Suddenly there's a big wing of the party that has been loyal to Trump for years now, have been standing behind him, and are a big part of what they like is his immigration stance. So they're now saying, hey, are you going to backtrack on that? That's what they don't like to see. And there's sort of, a target now maybe on Elon Musk's back or among others who are seen as sort of newcomers.
In my opinion on that, I would say fuck Laura, someone should educate her. I know she wants to be reelected again, but look, it's on both sides. It's on both sides. The problem's on both sides, right? I would agree with the incoming administration stance on this one. It's good to be pro-business and pro-growth. So that's about it for this one. Hey, if you guys want to join me on Twitch. Join me on Twitch. You can be part of the discussion. You can ask me any questions. And usually I charge for discussions. But, again, I have OCD. I love talking about these financial things. Not all clients want to talk about finance like I do. And we cover just about everything. I cover just about everything as long as it has to do with like economics, finance, taxes, estate planning, whatever, what have you. It's part of the discussion. So my Twitch handle is Econ on me on Twitch, all one word, Econ and me. Give it a view.